Welcome back, and joining me for a closer look at the day's markets activity is Odwa Msngwentshu from Momentum Securities. Thank you so much for your time, Odwa. Quite interesting to see sentiment in global markets because, of course, the big focus right now is the U.S. earnings, but the JSE and the European markets are up and the U.S. markets are actually down, even though we have gotten those earnings beats. What stood out for you there?
Firstly, is locally with Richmond, very strong outlook that we saw there, very impressive. On the U.S. side, it's as I say, the American markets, we are seeing some strong growth in terms of the banks coming up very strong out there. And what's nice to see is also the investment banking activity, which is growing so aggressively right now. So I think there is quite some insightful growth there. It's very interesting to, as you said, in the European markets also up despite the numbers that came out from the UK, for example, retail sales and manufacturing and industrial production came out lower than anticipated.
Well, let's zoom into Richmond because it was shining bright like a diamond in morning trade. It popped about 16% after the release of those third quarter results. Of course, a double-digit growth there in sales, but China is still remaining a dark spot. I mean, just shed some light on that performance.
You 100%. So China is the reason why they lost or didn't grow in the Asian market, or so. I mean that's very concerning. But it also tells you what's happening, or the focus of the Chinese consumer still very reluctant or not as out front and strong as previously. However, what was interesting for me is number one is. Africa going up 22% and the Middle East and seeing growth also in the American markets, quite aggressive there as well. The 10% is putting it likely to see, that China is not necessarily the backbone anymore. Secondly is then Ketia being the star of the show, with the growth there is showing that, high-end fashion or high-end jewelry still has its place in the world.
I must say also I was very impressed by Africa there, the double-digit growth that we saw there. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that momentum goes. Let's go into construction. Counter there, PPC came out with an announcement that they've signed a memorandum of agreement to construct a cement plant. This investment, a big one, 3 billion rand. Does it look like it could deliver a worthy return for this investment?
It comes on the back of the promise of infrastructure projects. The reliance, there's number one in the country, there's 300 billion allocated to infrastructure projects, but more so in the region, which is the Western Cape, 9.1 billion that they're looking to, gain from. And the one thing that South Africa definitely needs at this point in time is infrastructure or upkeep and also new infrastructure. So should all the cards align, there is definitely some upside to it, and it's a good, especially in partnership with this Chinese company. The Chinese are quite well known for building.
Well, it seems like the cards are aligning for BHP in terms of boosting its muscle in the copper space. So it announced today that it's partnered with London Mining for the acquisition of a company called Philo, which owns copper assets. BHP paying cash of $2 billion for the transaction. Talk to me about the value of this transaction for BHP.
It brings a lot of, diversification. And right now, I mean, if you're a single resource miner, you're in a very troubling moment because anything could go up. However, on the more side, on the copper side, with the electrification or the quote-unquote fourth industrial revolution, there is that electrical upside that's where they could gain a lot of traction. So the investment might take a while to bring full fruition, but it is a great one in terms of diversification.
All right. Well, Odwa, let us get to your stock pick for today. What are you choosing?
Well, sticking with fourth industrial, I'm liking BYD, the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer. The business is growing quite substantially, and I like the push into the emerging markets. Number one, they have just partnered with Grab for the Southeast Asian markets, and also with South Africa with Uber and other emerging markets. So expanding their brand, and they've reached record highs in terms of their sales in the last quarter or ending the year. Business is really strong, and I'm quite excited for it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights there and what has moved investors' money today, Odwa. That was Odwa Msngwentshu from Momentum Securities.